Take the Leap is the podcast where we get real about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and life. Sure, some folks make running a business look like a walk in the park, but let's be honest, it's more like a wild ride through a theme park with a lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Join us, your co-hosts, Ashlan
and Tory,
as we spill the beans on our own real-life experiences and shine a spotlight on some amazing guests. From the highs of success stories to the lows of epic failures. And hey, we'll even throw in some cringe-worthy, laugh-out-loud, embarrassing moments for good measure.
So buckle up and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for a dose of raw, unfiltered truth about what it's really like to chase your dreams and build a business.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the startup world, we've got something for everyone. Even if it's just to make you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't do what they did.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Take the Leap podcast. I'm really excited to be chatting with Tory today as we respond to our interview with Brady Helkin, CEO of BH Tech Connection and Deluxe Sabers. So one of the things, there were so many great things that Brady said. In addition to all his tips about cybersecurity and protecting your business and just being an all-around great representative for IT services. I remember in the very beginning when he talked about things that he wished he had known when he first started, which was undervaluing of services and also like wanting to increase prices or kind of looking beyond just making your hourly rate when you start a business. And I think you and I have both been through this. We also recorded in season 1 an episode about this. And so, yeah, I'm just curious, like, your perspective on like finding the right value for your services and raising rates.
Absolutely. So this is something that I've struggled with from the beginning. And I've told you like a lot of my horror stories of like completely undervaluing myself just because I wanted to get that client and then like not even getting paid from them for like 6 to 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
And like finally did get paid from them. And it was like the amount I got paid because I was so undervaluing myself wasn't worth the 6 to 8 months of waiting for that.
Yeah.
And, you know, just like making exceptions for people. I feel like every single time I have lowered my standards, lowered my value, and made it so that that person could sign with me. Not only has it not been very fulfilling on just like a mental level for me, but they've also been the most difficult clients to work with. And I just don't know a nice way of saying that. But I feel like every time I've, quote, given someone a discount or like changed my offerings so that they could afford me, we just didn't jive very well anyway.
Yeah.
And so I think knowing your value is really important for several reasons. One, you need to charge what you're worth. Big corporations aren't going to change their prices so that you can afford to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you doing that with your customers? In fact, if anybody should be doing it, it should be the bigger corporations because they have the resources to do that. But you don't. So
Yeah.
When you're a small business and when you're starting out, you don't. And I get that clients, like getting a client and getting regular income is important. But as Spencer Hill said, not all money is good money.
Yes.
And I think that's a really important thing that you need to remember. And so, and taking out the privilege I have to be able to say something like that, and, you know, being able to turn down clients if I don't think they're a good fit, you know, and things like that. Taking that aside for a minute and just knowing that if you know yourself, you know your values, and you know your worth, it is more likely that you are going to find the type of people to work with or the type of customers to come to you that are actually going to pay full price for your services and love working with you. Like, you are going to find that balance and that match a lot easier than if you just become what everybody else needs you to become. That turned into a rant and a soapbox, so I hope I answered your original question, whatever it was.
No, it's fine. I do feel that way too, because I feel like a lot of times, one, you're not going to be as motivated to do the work, right? Because you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, why, like, one, you're going to come critical on yourself, right? Of like, why did I do this? Why did I take this? And then it's not going to show up well for them. So they're going to be even more upset that you didn't give it your all. Or, it also creates space, like I have very sliding scale pricing, and one of the things that I have to do is just like explain what that means. That means that you don't get on demand, like, service. Like, there are people who are in a higher tier, and it's not that I don't care about said clients, but there are certain things that get what I call like the bat symbol, the Batman symbol kind of things. Your website is completely down and you cannot sell. Doesn't matter what level of client you are, I will address you. Doesn't matter what level that you're paying. Like, that is a nightmare thing.
Yeah.
Facebook or Meta fucking up, I can't really do anything with that. That's why we're going to go to your email newsletter list or, your website and make sure that it's working really well. But, there's different levels and different tiers of this has to be handled right now. And then there's other things that just have to wait, or, the level of what you received this month is your month's taking. And that's on my end to kind of adjust, the levels for that. But yeah. And also just for size, like, I look a lot of times at what the annual revenue is for my clients, especially with nonprofits where a lot of that information is publicly available. And so, I know some of the littler ones can't afford the same as the bigger ones, but some of those bigger ones, as you said, with the corporations, like, you can afford more. And like, I'm really appreciative that they work with me, but also they could afford a full-time hire. They don't necessarily need, and they're choosing to stick this way. And that's okay. Like, I really appreciate, and I love all the clients that I work with right now. But it creates different conversations. And it does require you as the service provider to have like really strong and set boundaries on things as well. And, and have that understanding, with your client as well. And I guess like a prime example that I have is I was sick in January, and I had reached out to many clients where I was like, hey, I know that, I was supposed to get such and such done. I'm really sick. Can we reevaluate that, that time frame, or, can we look at that another time? And all of them were super understanding. They're like, oh my God, yes, get better, but that gets cultivated over time. And if I just disappeared off the face of the planet and didn't ever say that I was sick, how would they know? And that sort of thing. So yeah, it all comes together. The way you put it together as well. So yeah.
It does. Yeah. And it's important. It's important because we're all human, and we all need to value ourselves as human beings, not as just, a
robots that are doing the work. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, there was another thing that I thought was hilarious that Brady said, which was the fuck you file or the fuck you fire, which was this idea that, and this happens. I'm sure this has happened to you. This has happened to me in my business. Is you get somebody who's like a little further along in their business, and they want to tell you, like, Ashlan, you have to do things this way. Like the pricing thing is like a huge one, right? They're like, it's the same price for everybody, and I was like, that's not accessible doesn't align with my values of equity and inclusion. So no, it's not the same price to everybody. But, then you get all the people who are like, well, you're going to fail, or this is going to, not work. And it's working. It's fine. We're doing it, And so that was one of the things that Brady had mentioned, is like he gets tagged on by like all these other IT providers that are like, you have to do it this way. And similar to the conversation we just had about with Anna about living your values, like you as a business owner get to choose how you work with clients, how you price your services. You do want to be able to make enough to like afford your pay and your business expenses, but you get to do that. So I guess from your perspective, what is in your fuck you file?
Oh, that's a good question. I think one of the like fuck you files for me is like, you have to do things the way they've always been done.
Mm-hmm.
So that could apply to like, I mean, I'm in social media and marketing. Like it could apply to that. Like I feel like there's a lot of people online who are like, you have to do it this way or you're not going to get more engagement. You have to do it this way, you're not going to make sales. And I frequently work with clients who I'm kind of getting them to change that perspective, because they know enough about that to be like a little bit dangerous, but it hasn't been working for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hey, that's because marketing isn't just like a template
Yeah.
that you can follow. Like it's not a cookie cutter approach. Like we need to look at your marketing as a whole and figure out what's working for you and what's not. And we have to adapt it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, yeah, this strategy here might be really good for another similar company, but you're not going to do half of this stuff. So who is,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's like kind of the biggest one for me. And that comes up a lot.
Oh.
And then I think the other thing, just speaking of fuck you file, like there's so many people who have mentored me or like talked to me, my own mother included, who's like, you can't act that way in business. You
Yeah.
can't look that way. You can't act that way. You can't say fuck you. You can't swear. Like you can't do certain things. Like you have to be, you can't show your tattoos. You can't like, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I finally have gotten to the point where I'm just like, yeah, this is me. This is how
Yeah.
I operate. This is how I function. And if you and I don't jive, there's a good chance that we shouldn't be working together anyway. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I'm saying that like you should work with somebody whose values align with yours. Like you
Mm-hmm.
should be working with somebody, especially if you're hiring somebody to help you grow your business, you should be working with somebody who can understand that and get that. And so if you and I don't connect on that level, there are plenty of other people out there who do. So
Yeah.
find them.
Well, I feel like, that brings up such a good point, because there's a lot of people who coach and consult. It's really similar to how like every therapist is not for everybody, right? Like finding
Yes.
that person that
Oh
you
my
can like connect with, that you can talk to, that you can speak to, who you can be yourself around, like that is so important. And so, yeah, that is one of the things that, like my hair, how I choose to be. I cuss. I remember I was on a discovery call with an incoming client who had, where did she see me? I spoke at an AMA event. And I think it was a couple days before I was going to tell my company, that the company I was working with, that I was done, that like I was giving 2 weeks notice. This was going to be my last day. I was betting on myself in business. And I said it out loud, and she connected with me on LinkedIn afterwards. And, we were chatting. And then I just dropped an F bomb, and I said shit. I said fucking shit within like succession. And then I was like, ooh, is that okay? And she's just like, oh yeah, this house, we talk like sailors. And I was like, cool. But but it was definitely a moment where I was like, and she was in like financial advising, and I was like, oh, that industry, not all, like not always, some people can be like super buttoned up. But I do think it's really important because, like we say, if you are generically for everybody, you're not going to get clients. You're not going to get customers, and I've been realizing more and more, especially with the state of the world right now. We're going to have somebody on very soon that's going to talk about the state of nonprofits and diversity, equity, and inclusion being under attack in this country. And I was supposed to speak on it was one of the largest events that we had last year for the American Marketing Association, that I was involved with, was this DEI symposium. And it got canceled because of the state of the world right now. And I'm definitely one of those people where I'm like, I want to be really loud about this stuff. It's still really important. There's still, I don't blame the folks who are scared, who fear for their safety. I live in a very privileged space where I don't feel actually, this kind of like perfectly ties to the next point that Brady made, but this notion that you're too small to be a target. I would love if this podcast got so big that we were getting death threats because we talk about valuing diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice. Bring it on. But, I feel like there are enough people in this country, in this world, that can speak with their dollars, who can align with you. And it is just so important to surround yourself with that community of people who are working towards the fucking shit that we want in this world. And not being scared or not hiding inside, inside a safe little bubble, to do that. So yeah. And similarly, Brady had talked about this notion that my company is too small to get hit by cyber attacks. There are people there is danger out there. It's about what you do to manage yourself, your anxiety, how you approach it, how you protect yourself. Those are all the important factors.
Absolutely. And just to kind of support that point even a little bit further, if you are a large business and you have a cyber attack, that fucking sucks. You've got like a lot of clients and people that, rely on you. You have to deal with it. But chances are you have the resources to deal with it. You have the attorneys to help you with the communicating with people. You have the technical agencies or people that work for you that will help figure out the problem and solve it. And it might be like a big price tag, but chances are you, again, have the resources that it won't pull you under. It's just going to be a blip. Then you're going to be able to move on. And
it's going to be a big insurance bill.
But you're probably going to be okay. Yeah. Whereas if you are a small business and you think to yourself, this will never happen to me. I'm a small business. Nobody wants anything from me. And somebody does attack you, it could very well bankrupt you. So I think that's just the reality of it is it doesn't matter how big or small you are. You can still always be a target. And if you are more prepared than not, it's still going to suck, but it's not going to take you under as much if you at least do the bare minimum of preparing yourself for things. Life is full of things that we are never going to be able to control or expect or see coming.
Yeah.
So as much as you can do to prepare yourself for, what would I do in this situation? The chances are you are going to handle it better as a business owner. So that's all I wanted to say about
yes. Being proactive and prepared it's part of life, right? Like, actually, the more I think about it, I have to think, do we have our disaster preparedness thing put together for here? It's like having an action plan, having all of that is really important as a small business. Yeah.
It really is. So Brady's episode was fantastic for talking through all of that. And I do remember I said this and then I had my husband listen to part of it. My husband is in cybersecurity and has been talking to me about all these things for years.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, whatever. It's just my husband telling me I need to do something. And then after Brady's conversation, I was like, I should really get my shit together.
Yes. LastPass is a blessing. It is wonderful to have that as a
I logged
container,
into it
and
since our
good.
conversation.
Good.
I did make the first step
Mm-hmm.
in getting there. And
Good.
my husband was just like shaking his head at me, like, oh my gosh, Tory.
He's
So
gonna give you gold stars for the attempts
exactly.
towards behavior change. Well,
Oh,
awesome. Well, any other thoughts on that episode?
I don't think so. It was a really good conversation. I was excited to talk to him. Like, we did research ahead of time and kind of looked up his company and everything like that. But I think I learned more from that conversation than I went in expecting I would. I think it
Yeah.
was a really good conversation.
That is, I mean, I consider myself a pretty damn savvy, like technical person. And I feel like any conversation I go into with Brady, I always learn another nugget of wisdom or how to be like, more prepared. I mean, we were just talking the other day, like I shared on the episode that my laptop of 6 or 7 years, like went completely like dead, donezo, and whatever. And, he was like, so current laptop, what is this, like, what is the status? And I was like, oh, she's already 2 years in. Damn. Like I've already got to start, I've already got to put it on the timeline. Like in a few years, like that needs a replacement. And then, the same on my desktop here, she can't travel with me, unfortunately. Although she does when we drive, but like not for flying. But yeah, there's time limits and expenses in your business that you just have to plan for, especially if you're a digital business. And I think you had, was it last year that yours
My
went,
laptop.
yours went kaput before mine, right? Or like right
Yeah.
around, I feel like it happened like right around the same time.
And my phone happened at the same time too. I was like, really?
Just all the things.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was fun.
Well, let's wrap up with our favorite part of our conversation, which is, what is your win for the week, Tori?
Yes. Speaking of things that I don't like to do, like technology and cybersecurity and tracking passwords, I submitted. Well, I'm going to hit submit after we get off this recording because my husband and I are going to review it together. We submitted all of our tax documents finally. I realize it's a bit late. But the official deadline for us to get everything into her was today. So we're doing it.
Yes. Good.
And it's all prepped. It's all mostly ready to go. We just have to confirm a few things and we're going to hit send. So by the time this episode is published, that'll be off my list. Now, why is this a win? Because I've literally been thinking about it every day since January 1st, and I've done nothing, absolutely nothing to prepare for it. So, learn from my mistakes.
And you're starting to prep 2025s right after. Maybe.
But it'll be off my list, and absolutely. I feel really good about that.
Good.
So.
Good.
What about you?
My win is we finished all our house decorations. So when my in-laws, when my in-laws were here a couple weeks ago, we bought these I'll take pictures of them so that you can see them when I can see you, but bought these little cactuses and put them in like the little holders that are up on the wall, and then like decorated the house with some of like my Blazer memorabilia, and we also had them put up. I have a Hawaiian flag out front of my house, like all these things that made it feel really homey. So it feels finished and settled, which is really awesome really as cool. Well. So yeah.
Awesome! Yay!
I love it. Yeah, it's feeling so homey, and it just feels good to check certain things off the list. But then on the opposite side of things, what is your do better for this week?
stay on top of admin things. And I know I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. I need to start staying on top of those little things like, balancing my checkbook every month and filling out forms that need to be filled out, and just kind of all of those things that just kind of creep up on me. I have a bad habit of just stacking them into a pile and putting it off until later. And it always comes back to bite me. So my do better, one thing that's been helpful is my husband's been trying to help me of like, okay, what can I do to help mitigate some of this? And so like I have folders where I just automatically put things that I'm dealing with later, but like it's in a folder and I'm like, I have to deal with this folder. Like, instead of it just like ending up on random surfaces somewhere.
Totally.
And then once a week, him and I check in on finance stuff. And so then I'm like, okay, this needs to be updated here, So like there are things that I am actually working towards to like make this better, but realizing that like we waited till like the very last day to get all my tax documents done. I'm like, I've got to stop doing this. This is not helping me or my business or my mental health. Like I've just got to stop doing this. And it's not 100% like I'm just being lazy and don't feel like doing it. It's just there's so much to do, and like I would rather not deal with that. So then that just keeps getting pushed off.
Yeah, well, that is a ADHD symptom, the all or nothing.
Yep.
It's like I won't start it until I can do like all of it. I do the same thing with unpacking in my like anytime we move. That is how unpacking happens, and it drives my husband off the wall. He's like, "Why are you still unpacking until 2 a.m.?" And I was like, "Because it'll feel better if everything is out of a box." Like just So.
It's true, all or nothing, man.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your do better?
My do better is to do some sort of exercise other than just walking the dog. So I know me and Mary are in a 3-way message on WhatsApp that we were doing accountability buddy stuff for just everything, exercise, work, business, all of those things. But I feel like I've really, really not been doing as much this week. Although I can give myself a little bit of grace. When my in-laws were here the other weekend, we did a lot of walking and a lot of like movement and stuff. But yeah, I wish I kept on that. So that is my do better, is to continue to find ways to squeeze in different workouts and things like that as well.
That's great.
So yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, with that, friends, we have wrapped yet another episode. If you have any comments for us on this episode, or if you have ideas for future episode topics or guests, make sure to send us a DM, or you can fill out the forms on our website. And then also we would love if you would leave us a rating or review and like and subscribe. This helps more people discover our podcast and also gives us something to share. So thank you for whoever left us that last 5-star. We really appreciate it. And we hope to share more. So until next time, we will see you back again for the next episode of Take the Leap. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com, for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast.